Send these cretins to our base in the Krakoa Nebula for further interrogation. Something tells me this is only the beginning.
Hey there, Aqualad.
Hello, Robin.
Sweet moves out there.
I do what must be done. Now, excuse me. There is an emergency in the SN1885 quadrant that needs my attention.
Cool. Yeah, I'll probably head out there too.
What? On your way to a pie-eating competition?
What's that supposed to mean?
Did someone say pie?
I love pie!
When I say I want, you say...
Not now! What?
I did not wish to say anything, but you and your team have brought nothing but shame to all real superheroes. The Teen Titans are a disgrace.
Hey, you are way off base, buddy. There's no difference between our teams. We may do things a little differently, but we're both just trying to take down the bad guys.
Is that right? Superheroes are supposed to inspire hearts and teach valuable lessons about friendship and life.
We do that?
What? Lessons like books can be dangerous? Or what is better, burgers or burritos? You are a mockery of everything the world holds sacred about heroes.
Come on. What is so bad about being a little silly from time to time?
I am all for a good laugh, but the Teen Titans cannot be serious for one single moment. Good day.
But
I said good day.
Okay. Good talk, Aqualad. Yep. We'll catch up later.
Welcome to the Carefree Black Nerd Podcast, a conversation about representation in comics and related media. I am your host, Rhayne Coleman, and this issue we will be discussing Kaldur'ahm. Now, if you're new here, thank you for tuning in. As I said, this show is about discussing characters of color in comics, specifically blacks, but people of color, and at media at large. So, if you like that sort of thing, please be sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast app so you'll get those notifications and you can listen in whenever I drop an episode. Be sure to share on your social media as well. Use that hashtag CBNPod. I do want to make this a conversation. Share it out to your friends who may not be as comic savvy as you clearly are for listening to this episode. All right, guys. Now, Kaldur'ahm. I'm going to probably say his name a bunch of different ways because if you don't know, I butcher all the names all the time. Now, why does this person matter? Why should we give a good gosh darn about Kaldur'ahm? Well, with the popularity of comic books and TV shows now firmly and sternly cemented in the general public's consciousness, this has been like, of course, for the past decade or so, we have seen so many adaptations of storylines and characters on like the big screen, the small screen, the streaming screen. And even though we do have Kaldur'ahm, we've seen him in animated version, it has only been in the comics and in the animated version. He's a relatively new character. Kaldur'ahm, or Aqualad as he's more tactically known, is in himself intersection. Now he is so he's Atlantean, he's black, he visibly he is black. His father is like one of the biggest, if not the big bad of the Aquaman universe. He's a meta, he's queer, he identifies as a gay man. So there you have it. So yeah, I think that, with this being Pride Month, of course, fist in the air, shout out and go Pride and all that good stuff to Kaldur'ahm. Now, he is, like I said, represented in the comics and the cartoons, but I just think that with the amount of energy that's being poured into comic properties, why not make him a staple in live action? Once I go through this lesson, one thing I want you guys to keep in your mind, because I want to get your answer towards the end or at any point throughout this episode. What do you think about Kaldur'ahm? Do you think that he should be in the DC live action universe? And if so, who would you get to cast as him? So keep that in mind as I'm going through this lesson of sorts. Now, Kaldur'ahm is one of two fictional superheroes who have been codenamed Aqualad. This is, of course, in DC Comics. Now, the first Aqualad was Aquaman's teen sidekick. This version debuted in 1960. His name was Garth, like Garth Ennis, Garth, Garth. He was a mutant outcast from Atlantis who joined up with Robin, Wonder Girl, and Kid Flash as the crime-fighting Teen Titans. Now, after some time, Garth graduated to become Tempest, who was more magically based in his power set. So that's the original Aqualad. So we're not going to focus on him. He is, for all intents and purposes, a white character, and that's not what this is about. Now, the character Kaldurahm was created by Brandon Vietti. And Brandon Vietti is, Kaldurahm was created by a few different people. I'm kind of going to list them there. So Brandon Vietti, he is an animator, director, and producer. He developed and co-produced the animated television show Young Justice. That's where Kaldurahm appeared. He did this with Greg Weisman. Now, Vietti also worked on a bunch of different other animated projects for DC Comics and for Warner Brothers. He was a director for The Batman and The Batman Brave and the Bold. He directed every third episode. So, I mean, that should speak for itself. Also, he did work on the Batman. The work he did on the Batman won him an Emmy, and that was back in 2006. He also directed the animated film Lego DC Comics Superheroes Justice League versus Bizarro League. Like, come on, like if that ain't no good indication as to Kaldurahm coming from good stock, then I don't know what is. Now, he was also created by Greg Weisman, who is a writer of comic books. He does animation and novels as well. And he's best known for his animated series. Come on, listen to this, guys. Gargoyles. Come on. If you don't know about Gargoyles, I don't know what to tell you. Mutants were my introduction into comics at large from what I can remember. But Gargoyles, bruh, let me tell you. Those of you too young, please go on YouTube, search, Google, Bing, Yahoo, whatever you got to do. Gargoyles was a friggin' soap opera, a drama, a true crime show that was packaged as a cartoon with like these supernatural. That was, So yeah, so he's best known for Gargoyles, The Spectacular Spider-Man, and of course Young Justice. Now, Kaldurahm was also created by a Phil Bourassa, Bourassa, Bourassa. So forgive me for butchering that name. And then, so for the television series Young Justice, that's where he was created, and he was voiced by Khary Payton. Now, everyone who I've mentioned already were white men. Khary Payton, however, is not. He is a black man. He is an American actor and voice actor, best known for the voice role of the DC Comics character Cyborg across various films, cartoons, and video games. Now, for those of you old heads out there, or those of you who grandma babysitted you, he is also known for his live action performance on General Hospital and, of course, The Walking Dead. So, again, Kaldurahm comes from good, creative stock, like rah. Now, Kaldur'ahm's name, the name Kaldur'ahm, is in reference to a character, Kaldur'ahm, who was formerly a henchman of the supervillain Black Manta, and he was sent to infiltrate Atlantis, but pretty much succumbed to the will of the Atlanteans. So that's a kind of a nice little nod there that they've taken Kaldur'ahm and kind of altered his name, his character, and has his new namesake as Kaldur'ahm, who has affiliations with Black Manta, which we'll get into over the course of this episode. Now, Kaldur'ahm was subsequently adapted for the DC mainstream continuity by Geoff Johns, and I'm going to, again, you're talking about good stock. Geoff Johns, who is a comic book writer and screenwriter, some of his work in television is the Blade series, Smallville, Arrow, The Flash. He also was a co-producer on the Green Lantern film that was in 2011. Now, I'm not going to hold that against him because that was not good. But he also produced Justice League in 2017, which, Cool. And he co-wrote the story for Aquaman in 2018. The screenplay also for Wonder Woman 1984, which hasn't even come out yet. So he's good stock nonetheless. So he was adapted by Geoff Johns and Ivan Reis. And I believe it's Reis, Reis. Now, Ivan is a Brazilian comic artist. He's known for his work on comic books like Dark Horse Comics, Ghost, Marvel Comics, Captain Marvel, and DC Comics, Action Comics, Green Lantern, and the Aquaman series. So again, like I said, coming from good creative stock, like this man has had a good, interesting run. Even more interesting is that I don't know that he's been handled by a black man outside of Khary playing his voice acting, but I'm gonna leave that there. Now, Kaldurahm debuted in the comics, anyways, under the name of Jackson Hyde. This was in Brightest Day number 4 back in August of 2010. Now, really quickly, kind of the short version. The Brightest Day, for those of you who don't know, it is a comic book crossover from DC. It spanned from 2010 to 2011. It was a year-long maxi series. Maxi series is 12 issues, where limited series is 6. It was a maxi series that began in April of 2010, and it was a whole bunch of tie-ins, pretty much an event. We know that when DC and Marvel and all other, well, specifically DC and Marvel, when they have their events, every single book tends to tie into these events. So the story follows the ending of the series Blackest Night, and how the aftermath of these events of Blackest Night affects the entire DC universe. Now, I don't want to get too deep into that event, but just kind of give you a chronological order so you can know what was going on in DC Comics around this time that he was created. Okay. Now, Kaldur'ahm, much like Natasha from last week, has been created and handled by some great creators in the comic book and animation industry. I'd like you guys to leave a comment in the comments and tweet me using the hashtag CBNPod and tell me, where were you first introduced to Kaldurahm or Aqualad, if you were introduced to him that way. And if this is your first time hearing about him, listening to this issue of Carefree Black Nerd, let me know that as well. Again, my handle on Twitter is Carefree Blurred, and all that information will be in the show notes. So again, tweet me or leave a comment in the comments and let me know using the hashtag CBNPod. When did you first become aware of Kaldurahm or Aqualad, as it is? Okay, now, for the behind-the-scenes DC editorial publication-ish stuff. So his first appearance was in Young Justice. That was an episode titled Independence Day. And his first comic appearance was in Brightest Day number 4 in August of 2010, like I said. His species, he is an Atlantean human hybrid. I don't know why, but Atlantean and Atlantis has always felt very regal to me. And it's probably because of that Atlantean Disney movie, but whatever. So, his place of origin is Atlantis. His team affiliations are Young Justice, Teen Titans, Justice League. Now, in his appearances in Justice League, he goes by Aquaman at that time. Aliases: Jackson Hyde, Waterboy, and Kaldur'ahm. Now, his abilities: Kaldur'ahm has superhuman strength. He can adapt to underwater environments. He can swim at superhuman speed. He possesses hydrokinesis, which I take it as a sort of kind of telekinesis, but water-based or enhanced underwater, I'd say. He also has bioelectric energy blast because, of course, you know, all black superheroes have to have some sort of lightning or electricity powers. Like, it's just, I guess, just what they have to have. Shit. Now, he also has hydro swords that can shift into a shield and various other weapons. They have him listed as a natural-born leader and planner, a master strategist, Lord strategist, and also a master of deception and duplicity. Yeah, so yeah, he was an interesting character. I was happy to see him when I first started watching Young Justice way back in the day. Okay, now Jackson Hyde has been shown to possess the ability to breathe underwater, as well as enhanced strength. He can adapt his eyes to see in the darkest of the ocean bottoms. He features gill slits on the sides of his neck, and this is to allow him to extract oxygen from the water so that, of course, he can breathe and not drown. He also appears to demonstrate hydrokinesis, which I mentioned before, which they have listed here as the ability to increase the local specific density of the water and then manipulate its shape. So where I likened it to more so telekinesis. This is more physical, of course, with manipulating water and the density of it. So I mean, that's cool. I've seen them do that. Now, this is very similar to Mera, for those of you who are remember Mera, and the other citizens of Zebel. He is later given a pair of water bearer weapons, which allow him to focus that innate power that he has and create shapes of weapons with that water. Now, in addition, he is able to discharge powerful bolts of electricity. Like I said, black people in comics have to have some electric powers. Kaldur'ahm is also mentioned as having an immunity or like some sort of resistance to poisons. Because remember, those of you who've seen Cheshire once tried to poison him, put it to the test. So that's that. So that's kind of the limited backstory. So now we're going to get into the actual meat of this man's history. Now, starting with the Young Justice version, because that's where he did appear first in the animated version of himself. Now, Young Justice, the animated series, he was first seen as the protege of Aquaman. Now, later, he was unanimously elected by the team to be the leader after their first mission together. Now, going through this, I remember watching Young Justice for the first time, and for whatever reason, I had stayed away from, well, no, I won't say stayed away from, it took me a while to get around to watching Young Justice. I remember I was watching it on Netflix, and I was hooked immediately. And I don't know, I think it was so surprising for me because at that time I had stepped away from comics, then I had just gotten back into them, and I was working a very demanding job, like third shift, and so my time awake was very limited as I had to rest and prepare for the next, night of work. But I remember getting into this show and like over the matter of maybe a week or so, or maybe 2 or 3, I would watch an episode before I went to bed. Like it was this whole production. But I remember being introduced to Kaldur'ahm that way and being so interested and so excited for his character. Check out Young Justice if y'all haven't. Now, in the second season of Young Justice, he uncovered that he was in fact the son of Black Manta. Now, because that character was originally created for the animated series, that character being Kaldur'ahm, before he was being brought into the Brightest Day in the comics, he has a very different origin from his comic book counterpart. Now, with this, he is a citizen of Atlantis in the animated series who developed his powers in about a year or so, and that was after studying that Atlantean sorcery, which I guess Atlantis in DC's depiction of it is more or less like a King Arthur and the Knights and the Round Table type of Game of Thrones-esque show, but underwater. So yeah, so after studying that sorcery, he still maintained his birth name of Kaldur'ahm, and he does not use the Jackson Hyde alias that was created for the comics. So this version in the animated series was just Kaldur'ahm. Now, he's portrayed as the most mature member of Young Justice. There was an episode, Downtime, I believe, where it reveals that he and his friend Garth, remember Garth from before, had saved Aquaman's life during the battle with the Ocean Master. Now, Aquaman offered to take on both of these teens as his proteges, but Garth chose to remain in Atlantis to continue his studies in sorcery, while Kaldur'ahm chose to travel with Aquaman and become Aqualad. He also had interest in a girl named Tula, who became involved with Garth after Kaldur'ahm left Atlantis. And the thing about this is, it's so interesting, is that kind of story is pre-Young Justice. So when we open up on episode 1 of Young Justice, we get the events going forward. When we get this episode, it's kind of it's happening in real time, so in the chronological order of the show. But all of this that I just went through is things that happen both on the show and have happened prior to the show starting, so to speak. Like, these are things that have already happened. So it's another soap opera. That's what it is. Now, in season 2, titled Young Justice Invasion, this season was set 5 years later from the events from the end of the first season. Now, Kaldur'ahm is, and this was so good. Like, okay, so before I even get into that, when I remember watching the first season and wanting the second, and then getting that second season, and then the way that Kaldur'ahm was presented. DC animation, the cartoons and cartoon movies are always stellar, but they have a way of layering a lot, and it's just good storytelling. That's what it is. So I'll get into it and you'll see what I mean. So he's working undercover with Black Manta. They have him set up as the villain, and it's very jarring because it's like, no, he wasn't that in season 1, but then you're like, 5 years have passed, so who knows what has transpired. But then once it comes out, the truth comes out, it's like, okay, a sigh of relief, but they did a really good job at setting this up. Now, he's working undercover with Black Manta, and this is for Nightwing, so he can find out who the Light's partner is. Now, the Light was this organization, which, I'm not even gonna get into it. You need to watch Young Justice. Watch it and you'll know. Though some of it will be spoiled for you in this lesson, so sorry about that. Now, he need to find out who the Light's partner is. Now, in this episode titled Depth, Depths, Black Manta sends Kaldur'ahm and the Manta Men to disrupt a satellite's launch, and this is a Ferris aircraft. Now, this is where he and Nightwing fake Artemis death in order to put her undercover as Tigress. So it was a lot of covert spy 007 Born Identity type stuff going on in season 2. So good, so good. Now, in the episode Darkest, Aqualad, Tigress, and a team of supervillains trick Impulse and Blue Beetle to Mount Justice, captures them along with Beast Boy, and destroys Mount Justice with a bomb. It's later revealed, however, that he secretly gave Nightwing a tracking device. Now, this corresponds to a tracker that he injected Lagoon Boy with. Now, in Before the Dawn, Miss Martian confronted and mentally attacked Aqualad as revenge for his supposed killing, quote-unquote, of Artemis. But drops into a state of guilt when she learns about him and Artemis's plan, their undercover mission, because everyone wasn't privy to what was going on, or else what's the point of it being a secret mission and shit. Now, after Miss Martian succeeds, Artemis manipulates Black Manta. Okay, so let me take a couple steps back. So Miss Martian, feeling bad, because of course she went in, though doing her job. This is just good writing, because you get this scene. I remember this so clearly, with her like fighting him in his mind and it coming out what the truth was, and her having to kind of cope with that like very immediately and long term, because you've realized that you've hurt a friend. Though it's good, y'all. I'm just gonna be gushing about Young Justice, but. So she slips into this guilty state because she learns about the undercover mission. Now, Artemis showed up, and she was very shocked by what Miss Martian had done, and she escaped with Aqualad. Now, he was in like this very catatonic state. For those of you familiar with Generation X, it's like the state that Monet St. Croix would go into in the earlier issues of the series, where she was like unmovable and, like they say, catatonic. Excuse me. So they escape with the catatonic Aqualad. Now, Aqualad pretends to still be in this catatonic state, and this is to keep Black Manta from killing Miss Martian. And Okay, let me see. I'm trying to make sure I get this right because I'm going off of what I've kind of uncovered and researched, whatever, and I'm also going off of memory of the actual show. 'Cause it's so good. And okay, so he pretends to remain catatonic. This is to keep his father at bay from killing Miss Martian, and then he also helps to arrange her escape. Now, much later, during a summit, this is a summit between the Light and the Reach. Black Beetle, Artemis, and Aqualad's cover is revealed, and Miss Martian's disguise as Deathstroke. They'll fake their death once again, because again, it's comics. Why not fake your death? Aqualad reveals the Light's enduring, substantial betrayal of the Reach, and this is via a hologram. Like, this scene was so intense, man. Y'all, look, watch the show. Aqualad ends up defeating Black Manta. And soon after, it's revealed that he had also been the one who defeated Deathstroke. Now, Aqualad is made the leader of the team again. This is by Nightwing, who soon leaves in the wake of Wally's death during the defeat of the Reach in the Season 2 finale. So again, spoilers, sort of. Now, in the third season, Kaldur'ahm has taken his mentor's place in the Justice League as Aquaman 2, as he co-leads the League with Wonder Woman. So that's what I was saying before. When he is part of the Justice League, he is Aquaman. Okay. Now, with this like rich history, we get a lot of that on screen, which is very different or very unique to, not unique to him. Well, it is, because I think the same thing happened with Harley Quinn, but it's so few and far between that you get a character that is birthed on the animated series but then is like thrown into the comics. It's usually the other way around. Now, for those of you who do know Aqualad, Kaldur'ahm from Young Justice, let me know. Again, another question for you guys in the comments, and tweet me using that hashtag CBNPod. Do you like his depiction in Young Justice? Why or why not? I know there were kind of mixed reviews. I remember some people really being for him and others being like, oh, he's such a Boy Scout, we don't really care for him. But I'd like to know what you guys think. Let me know. Do you like Kaldur'ahm's depiction in Young Justice? And it could be any season. It could be all seasons, the first season, second, third, it doesn't matter. But I really like to know if you liked it and why or why not.
We have arrived with the final shipment of proletarians. Congratulations, my son.
Thank you, Father. Initiating phase 2.
I had not believed Nightwing until this moment.
You did not want to believe. None of us wanted to believe this. How could you betray us?
You dare question me? After all of you let Tula die!
Calder, that was a mission. Aquagirl knew the risks. No one wanted
Neptune's beard! Don't coddle this traitor. He has joined forces with our king's greatest enemy.
Do you mean the king who hid from me the true identity of my father?
That was my error in judgment, Kaldur'ahm. No one else needs suffer for it.
All will suffer if Black Manta demands it. Blood is thicker than seawater.
Calder.
Just you and me, old friend.
No! It's a regular reunion special.
Fine. You can take me down. Or you can save everyone from this bomb. I am told the yield is quite impressive. You have 2 minutes. Father, congratulations, son.
Now, getting into his comic book history. A very different version of Kaldur'ahm debuted in Brightest Day, number 4, August of 2010. Now, this coincided with the appearance of Aqualad in the 2010 Young Justice animated series, though he was first introduced in Young Justice. He, in the comic book continuity, that's what we'll be discussing going forward. He is a teenager from Silver City, New Mexico. Jackson Hyde was taught by his parents to fear water since he was young. They do not want him near it because his true parents would be able to locate him. Not to mention certain changes happen to him when he gets in the water. Now this, I'm okay with this origin. My only question is, what happens when he takes a bath? does he not shower? Like, that's the biggest question in my mind. Now, Jackson kept this secret hidden for years. He would lie to his girlfriend about being afraid of drowning, being unable to swim, being in the dark about his mysterious tattoos that he has had since birth. Like, he was a child with these tattoos. And now, before going any further, I do want to mention that in the animated series, he had a girlfriend or a crush, Tula, and in the comic book version, he had a girlfriend as well. I did start off this episode talking about how he is a gay character. He identifies as gay. And I guess the question would be, well, wouldn't he be bisexual? Well, with comics and with DC and Marvel and the way they reboot and rename everything, there have been iterations of him. As we clearly see, there was an animated version and there's a comic version. There are many different kind of iterations of characters throughout the years. So, though he started off as a assumably heterosexual character, we will get to the whole reason as to why he is gay. And I can confidently say that he does identify as a gay man. So I don't want any confusion there. We'll kind of sort this out towards the end. Okay, now the tattoos he had since birth, so that's that. Now Aquaman is later contacted by Entity, which tells him to locate Jackson before a second unidentified group. Now this group is speculated to be Siren and her Death Squad. Okay, so Jackson Hyde and his on-again, off-again girlfriend Maria are first drawn into the events of Brightest Day after they witness Deadman, Hawk and Dove activating the White Lantern Battery. Now this battery has landed in Silver City, New Mexico after the events of Blackest Night. As the battery begins to speak to the heroes, the tattoos on Jackson's right arm begin to glow. Now Jackson is seen outside his house during a rainstorm where he displays his abilities for the first time, which that's another question. Yes, you want to keep him away from water, but man, he has to take a bath, a shower, brush his teeth, and then there is the weather. It rains. Like, how is this his first time? But I digress. Now, as he started to control the water from the rain, his tattoos and his eyes began glowing again. Now, at this point, he is revealed to possess gills. Ooh, now how frightening would that have been? Like, to think of this in live action, and he's been taught that water is evil or whatever else, and his parents have been like secretive about all this stuff, and you know you're kind of drawn to the water. You don't know what it is. You go out in the rain one day after your tattoos have been glowing, and you get gills on your neck. Like, bruh, I couldn't imagine. So not only did he get gills, but he got webbed hands. Like, what is going on? So it is also revealed that Black Manta is actually his real father, and that Mera also has some sort of connection to him. So Mera of Aquaman fame. Now, after witnessing Jackson in the rain, his adoptive father takes him to a cottage by the sea. The father then tells him that Mera had given Jackson to him, asking that he keep him away from his parents, and that he was given an Atlantean chest to be opened when the truth is discovered. Which is like, what if they had made it to like his 40th birthday and then the truth came out? Man, you talking about mad. I'd be pissed. So before the chest can be opened, Black Manta, along with Siren and her Death Squad, they attack. Of course they do. Now Jackson, using his ability to create hard water constructs like the swords and shields and whatnot, he defends his adoptive father, but cannot stop Black Manta from shooting a trident-shaped dart at him. Which is like, I mean, it's on brand, but dramatic much? You shot a dart in the shape of a trident? What is going on? Now, Jackson's adoptive father would have died if not for Aquaman, who blocks and crushes the dart. But still, a trident... Bruh. Now, Aquaman gets Jackson and his foster father to safety, where everything is explained. So now the chest is open, and this activates a map, which is like, again, this So, like, why not just have one thing? I guess it wouldn't be comics if it wasn't just a bunch of mess. So, the chest is open. A map is activated. Now, using the map, the two discover a sealed chest. Okay, so, bruh. They're told about the truth. The chest opens. A map is activated. Using the map, they discover a sealed chest that only Jackson can open. Like, what is this? What is this? Panic room, escape room. Now, once the chest is open, Jackson is shown a recording from Mira, who explains that his father and mother have been kidnapped and tortured by the people of Xebel. Xebel, Xebel, that is an extra-dimensional Atlantean penal colony. Now, while they were exploring the Bermuda Triangle, now that's where the gateway to the colony is located. Now, Xebel's king had ordered that the child be the first outsider born there in centuries be experimented on. So, again, okay, I'm about to walk y'all back through this. I know it's redundant. He's told explained the history. He finds the chest. The chest opens and activates a map. Using the map, he discovered another chest. And in that chest that only Jackson can open, he showed a recording. And the recording is about his real parents who were kidnapped and tortured by the people of Xebel. Xebel, which is an extra-dimensional Atlantean penal colony, while in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle, which is where the gateway to that colony is located. And they had to escape because the king had ordered that child be experimented on. What the fuck? Bruh, comics. This is what we go to the store week after week for. This mess right here. Okay, so he asks, the king wanted him to be experimented on in order to serve as a key that would finally free them from their exile. Now, fearing for the child's safety, Mira had stolen the baby and brought him to the surface world, where she gave him to the foster family that ended up raising him, which is like, okay, just, is there any paperwork? Now, she also reveals his true name, which is Kaldur'ahm. Now, once the recording is over, Jackson discovers several items which Mira had left for him, which is like, God. Most notably, a soldier's uniform from Xebel and a pair of water bearers, which are the metallic constructs that help him to control his water manipulation powers, which you'll see in both iterations of him, the animated show and the comic book. Now, Aquaman and Jackson ultimately end up in Miami, Florida, which is, of course, why wouldn't you? Like, water-based superhero, yeah, you're going to go to Miami. Now, this is where Black Manta and Siren are leading an army of warriors from Xebel in a full-scale invasion. Now, Jackson successfully used his water bearers, and this is to create blades, which he uses to fight off the attacking troops. Like, bruh, you got it. He even briefly holds his own in a duel with Siren. And think of it like this. All the stuff he'd been through already. Then he puts on these metallic chains or whatnot, and he's able to control his powers a bit more. He has not been trained in using his abilities. He's had these be a secret from him forever and a day. So for him to be able to hold his own against Siren and able to fight off a lot of this army so well, it's like, God, that's a testament to how powerful he is, and just think of how powerful he can be with the right training, or with just knowing his body a bit better with the powers that he has. Like, man, come on, this man is badass. Now, after Black Manta severs Aquaman's right hand, Jackson attacks his father and berates him, for siding with the people who killed his own wife, only for Black Manta to throw Jackson to the ground and coldly states that both he and his mother mean nothing to him. It's like, whoa, okay. Now, just as Black Manta is about to kill his son with one of his blades, I'm sure it was trident shaped, Mera arrives with Aquagirl. They save Jackson by kicking his father square in the face. Okay, no. Now, after using his bioelectrical abilities to cauterize Aquaman's wound, because, like, bruh, you have no hand. Jackson and Mira are able to work together to seal Black Manta, Siren, and the rest of the invaders away in the Bermuda Triangle. Whew, I'm tired just listening to that. Now, as the heroes celebrate, Jackson is shown to be harboring a crush on Aquagirl, which is like, bro, you just met her, but I mean, I get it. Afterwards, Mira tells Aquaman that Jackson wants to continue his training, which why wouldn't he? Aquaman tells her that he has already contacted the Titans, and there we go. You're going to be a Titan now. You're a Titan now, Harry. Okay, now after Damian Wayne, who, for those of you who don't know, is the son of Talia al Ghul, which there was an 2-part episode on her, and I'll link that in the show notes. Talia al Ghul and Wayne, Bruce Wayne, excuse me. Now, Damian Wayne joins the Teen Titans. A vision of Jackson arriving at the Titans Tower and confronting Superboy, Wonder Girl, Beast Boy, and Kid Flash is shown as part of a collage in the future events that will affect the team. Okay, so moving forward a bit, in September of 2011, the New 52 rebooted DC's continuity. Again, guys, remember, this is comics. Like, and then the big two, especially Marvel and DC, things will be rebooted and reshaped and moved around like it ain't nothing. Jesus Christ. So the New 52 rebooted DC's continuity. In this, Aqualad does not appear in this timeline, which, okay, of course not. In May of 2016, however, DC Rebirth readjusted DC's continuity. So we're going to hold off right there. Now, this is pretty much his history, animated and comic book version. And I like this character. I think probably is most notably or famously known from the animated series versus the comic book. Which is cool because a lot of kids would have grown up watching him on the screen, so that when these new creators get onto these companies who've grown up watching them, he'll have a bigger role going forward. Fingers crossed. Now, going back to the whole sexuality of it all, this is a queer character. As we stated, he liked Tula, whatever, in the animated series. Then he had a girlfriend, Maria, in the comic books, and he also had a crush on Aquagirl. Now, all of that happened. I'm not sure what is considered. I'm sure that the comic version is considered canon, but the reboots and updates and reworks become more canon, so to speak. So, all that being said, we're going to end his history with this here, with the New 52. Now, in the New 52 reboot, like I said, he was nowhere mentioned. I'm sorry, in Rebirth. So in May 2016, DC Rebirth readjusted DC's continuity, which, as you do. Now, in this timeline, the Jackson Hyde version of the character is reintroduced, but as a gay teenager. Visibly looking more like his Young Justice counterpart, because the difference, and forgive me for not mentioning, Young Justice, he's tall, brown skinned, blonde haired, kind of like a low fade, very muscular, athletically built, just a fit guy. Same can be said for the comic book version, but he does have like these dreads, these locks. He's, looks like every other black man in comics, So, but in the comic version of Kaldur'ahm in DC Rebirth, they rebirth him to be more like the Young Justice animated series version, which is cool. Keep that continuity. Again, for kids who grew up watching Young Justice, when they get their hands on comic books, you'll be able to see this character looking just like he did in the animated series, which will be easier to follow. Now, in this timeline, they have him looking more like he did in Young Justice, and it is mentioned that he displays a near superhuman talent for swimming. Aqualad will be joining the Teen Titans after the team encounters him while exploring the San Francisco Bay for a mission. So again, most recently he has been, not retcon because this is like a whole new continuity, but he is an out gay character. There is an issue where he comes out to his dad, Black Manta, and it's such a funny outing because Black Manta's like, that's trivial to him. Like, I don't give two fucks who you like are with or in love with or what your sexuality is. Like, I'm your dad and I hate Aquaman, and that's what's most important. And it's such a funny. I remember reading those panels when it first came out, and of course, people had their issues and their anger with the gay stuff and with him being a queer character. But I mean, shit, representation is what it is. It's not going anywhere. People aren't going anywhere. So other appearances. Let's see. He appeared, other versions rather. There's a version of Aqualad that appears as part of the Ubernet Teen Titans Justice League in the pages of Red Robin, the restaurant. Jackson Hyde appears as Aqualad in the prequel comic to Injustice 2, where he's agreed to represent the oceans and joins Batman's efforts to repair the world after Superman's tyranny. Later, it is revealed in this continuity that he is allied with Ra's al Ghul and assassinates the president after Blue Beetle accidentally destroys a number of endangered species. Okay, thanks, Blue Beetle. Now, in other media, television, Aqualad originated, of course, as the main character in Young Justice, and he's featured throughout. He's voiced by Khary Payton, as I said before, and in the third season, he becomes Aquaman. Aqualad makes a guest appearance in Teen Titans Go, again voiced by Khary Payton, in the episode Let's Get Serious, which is a crossover with Young Justice. He accompanies Superboy and Miss Martian in taking the Hive, as the Titans were too silly to do it the correct way. Let's see what else. In film, Kaldur'ahm is seen alongside Garth and Aquagirl in the corrupted timeline events of Justice League, the Flashpoint Paradox. They battle Deathstroke, but they are overpowered. Later, he reappeared in the final battle with the Amazons, but in this continuity, he is presumed to be dead. In video games, Aqualad appears as the main character in the video game Young Justice Legacy, which is set between Season 1 and Season 2 of the Young Justice TV series, so within that 5-year period. Khary Payton, of course, reprises his role and is the voice of Aqualad. Let's see, he's also a playable character in the Lego DC Super Villains game. This man is very important to the culture. He needs to be protected at all costs. He is a very prominent character. He is visibly very different from others. There's not many black people, specifically black men, when you put it ratio to white characters that are in the DC comics featured prominently. I think they would do well to have him appear more. I don't know, but y'all know how I feel. I'm always a sucker for these characters being featured more prominently. Now, let's see. On the big screen of the DC Universe app, I asked you guys earlier, what do you think about this character, Kaldur'ahm, being live action? He's been in these comic books, he's been in these cartoons, but could you see him in a live action role? And then who would you see playing his role? For this, I'd have to go with, I'd say Kofi Siriboe. Forgive me for butchering your name, but from Queen Sugar. He is young. He was born in 94, so he's a young guy. He has the height, like he's 6'2". He's a melanated man. He is a brown man. And I just think that he has the range to play the character and to do a really good job. And again, with him being younger and with whatever DC decides to land on as a mission or a phase going forward, once they get consistent, I think that he'd be able to continue on. And really with a lot of these actors, like, why wouldn't you want to attach yourself to a Marvel or DC or comic franchise where you're going to kind of sort of be guaranteed this check for a while, for at least a few movies or TV shows? And I'd like to see him in Titans as well, right alongside all the other Titans, Starfire specifically, to see these two brown characters interacting. That would be amazing. So that'd be my pick for a live action version. of Aqualad Kaldur'ahm, and I'd like to see what they do with that character. Like, he doesn't necessarily have to be who he was in the animated series. I mean, he could have the blonde hair or not. I could take it or leave it. Probably would want it at least for a bit, some kind of way to reference the original source material, but whatever y'all decide to do would be fine. I would like to see him. I really think he would do well. So, assuming you guys left your comment to my earlier question, do you think that he would do well as a live action character, and who would you want to play him? Go ahead and hit me up on Twitter as well, Carefree Blurred. Tell me who you would want to cast as Kaldur'ahm in a live action version. If he had his own, I don't know, series on DC Universe, if he appeared in the Arrowverse or on the big screen, let me know. Because, essentially he could be Aquaman. And then to see Kofi and Jason Momoa on screen together, bruh, that, like, yeah. But yeah, so leave that comment, guys, and tweet me, Carefree Blurred. Use that hashtag CBNPod and let me know. I'd like, again, to make this a conversation. Now, guys, with this issue, let me know, was this interesting to you? Did you learn anything new? Did you know anything about Kaldur'ahm, Aqualad, Aquaman 2? Is this new to you, or is it like, oh no, I knew about this guy? Either way, I do want to thank you all for listening. Again, follow me on my social medias. My Twitter is Carefree Blurred. Instagram and all other social medias is Carefree Black Nerd. You can email me at carefreeblacknerd@gmail.com. There are tons and tons of other shows in this Carefree Black Nerd feed, so go ahead and check those out as well. Happy Pride Month, everyone. This is the Pride series, so to speak. Also, be sure to subscribe to the show on your podcasting app of choice and sites and whatnot. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Player FM, and everywhere else, hell. And, of course, go on to bynkradio.net in that podcast section where you will find Carefree Black Nerd and other great podcasts as well. And while you're over there on your local podcasting platform, please be sure to give me that 5-star rating. Leave a review. I'll be sure to read your review on air, of course. And until next time, stay carefree, stay nerdy, stay geeky, and happy Pride.
We are allies, not enemies. Any conflict between us only benefits our true opponents, the Justice League and their sidekicks.
Kaldur'ahm is quite correct. Agreed. We must not allow petty disagreements to drive a wedge between us. Gratitude, Kaldur'ahm. But Kaldur'ahm killed Artemis. If she lives, and in disguise as his lieutenant, then that means...
That means Aqualad duped them all, including his own father.
I cannot comprehend this betrayal, Kaldur. How could you? I admit to being conflicted, Father. I have seen your noble side, but you left me no choice. As long as you waste your gifts on villainy, I will stand against you. It seems I have been too permissive. Clearly, boy, you require discipline.